presentation. This is all about branding in a positive way. Victoria Baylor is our presenter. She's in her beautiful striped coat. I love that. She is passionate about helping professionals and entrepreneurs brand confidently and impact relentlessly. Victoria is a TEDx speaker, teacher, consultant, and #1 Amazon best-selling author. She is intuitive mindset and brand brilliance coach. Her love for helping people get over their toxic mental blocks and identify and increase their brand brilliance and value intersects with her analytical and creative abilities from a background in research science and clothing designs. She has been an image professional and business owner for 13 years. Victoria launched her own branding boutique, Baylor Brand Consulting, and uses her unique analytical, intuitive, and creative approach to help professionals polish their personal and visual brands and increase their value and confidence. Whether speaking, teaching, or coaching, her mission is to help professionals and entrepreneurs build a strong mindset and unwavering personal brand that allows them to uniquely sell their value, expand their visibility, and leverage it to make a huge impact on their business and the world. She serves on various boards, volunteer groups, and other business organizations, and she resides in Savannah, Georgia, and is a wife to Jimmy and mom to 12-year-old Riley. She spoke at Savannah Jaycees function, and we were just blown away by her presentation, so we thought we'd bring her back for the convention. So thank you so much, Victoria, for joining us. Would you like the microphone, or are you just going to project?
Can everybody hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Sometimes I don't project as well.
Okay.
Let me know if it gets too low.
We'll bring you a microphone if you want.
Okay. I appreciate the talk up. I hope I deliver today. That'll be the thing. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all, wonderful, intelligent people. Of course, I'm Victoria. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm a very interactive kind of speaker. I am not a lecturer. So oftentimes I will plug or ask, for a little bit of interaction. If I look at you and you dart your eyes to the side and look away, I will call on you. So just a warning. I'm here to talk about something that I'm very, very passionate about, which is personal branding, and the way in which it impacts all of you guys. And I love that Miss Cecilia came up. Did I say that right? Okay. Miss Cecilia came up. I'm bad with names. I love that she came up and talked about money and, obviously soliciting. Can you not hear me?
The heat is
okay.
Something
can I
going back here so we can't hear you as well.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, great.
I'm on it.
Thank you, ma'am. I will wait.
I hope it's the heat.
Here we go. Please be
It's funny, I spent time in Barrow, Alaska in my long ago research days, and at one point it was -45. And it feels like that today for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It was just, I'm struggling. Anyway, it was great following up Miss Cecilia and her presentation about soliciting money, because as we know, what you present about yourself can really give an impression of people and get results that you want. And in her case, as she was sharing with you all, you want to be able to actually fundraise, get money. Well, people aren't just going to give it to you for no reason. You have to present something that convinces them to give. So that something is, of course, your personal brand. So today I'm talking about maximizing your personal brand impressions. So we're going to think about personal branding on a deeper level. I'm going to start by asking a question. How many of you have heard the old adage that you only get one time to make a good first impression? Yes. Do we believe that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because it's very true. However, in the world of personal branding, you want to take every opportunity to make a good impression like it's the first time. So this is where it gets a little bit different, and we're trying to, today I want to kind of change the way you think about personal branding and change your thoughts on the intentionality of personal branding. So the importance of branding yourself is, there's a lot of reasons, and we'll get into kind of like the details of what it is and defining it. Later on in the talk, we'll talk about why it's important, or why it's important to actually maximize your personal brand, and then finally, how to actually do that. So first off, let's talk about perks, because you really can't get somebody to do something unless you give them a reason why it's important to do it. So personal branding, in essence, brings about great results. And part of the results is, I'm missing a slide. Okay, so I'm gonna have to talk my way through that. Okay. So part of the reason you want a personal brand is it positions you in the mind of the people around you. So your personal brand is not your website, your business card, any other material like that. That's actually your visual branding. It supports your personal brand. Your personal brand is actually the most important part, which is you. You are your personal brand. And we all are a billboard for our business or our position or whatever we hold, and we represent ourselves in a unique way. Your personal brand simply is your image and your reputation. It's how people experience you, and it's what you impress on them. And let's actually put this in real world context. Who went out to eat last night? Visit a restaurant? Okay. Just because of your reaction, she was like, I'm gonna ask you. Now you don't have to say the name of the restaurant because we are live streaming and we want to be respectful. What type of food was it?
Well, I didn't eat there, but
Okay.
there was food. It smelled good.
Okay, well you
They
still.
didn't share.
Okay, great. So you had an impression of the restaurant. What was your impression? Even though you didn't eat, what was your impression? Is it positive, negative?
It was positive.
Okay, good.
It smelled great.
What for you stood out?
Yeah.
Okay, so it looked good.
It looked great.
Okay, so from a sensory,
Yeah.
smells were good.
It smells great.
Okay, next time would you be more interested in eating there?
Yep.
Okay, great. So was overall the impression positive?
It was positive.
Okay. So what's really neat about that as an example, anybody have a negative experience at a restaurant of any kind
Oh yeah.
in your life? Okay. What was your, what type of food?
I'm not sure, but sometimes you walk in and it smells like cleaning supplies.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember the restaurant?
Yeah, I don't want to say though.
No, don't. Well, don't, please. That's bad branding. This is bad manners. Will you go back based on your impression?
Probably, but I'd be a little more skeptical.
A little bit more hesitant? Okay. So what we demonstrated today, there is definitely a power that happens when when a brand is involved and how it imprints on us. And I think I want you to really keep in mind the word impression and what that really denotes. It's all about imprinting something. So oftentimes we think about personal branding as just being very surface. It's like I have an opinion, but there's something actually that is deeper that happens. And I want you to think of in the sense of that deeper thing also, since you're a personal brand, you have that ability to impact and affect people in a unique way. Okay, so on to the most important topic of today. It's not me, it's you. And it's your personal brand. So from the stance of having an image and a reputation, what does that really break down to? So these are animated, so what makes you you? Your unique factors. And I'm pointing out all of this stuff because a lot of times we overlook so many attributes about ourselves that actually feeds into who we are that we can really leverage to gain opportunities. And if you're talking about why even personally brand yourself in the first place, it's because what it does is actually position you in the minds of other people. So if you're known for a certain thing, or if you have a certain skill set, or if you have a unique brand message, or if you dress a certain way, or you have a certain type of body language, you imprint in people's minds. And if you imprint a message that you want, you can actually get a desired result. So if you want to be seen as creditable or smart, or as ambitious, or as someone that can actually do the job you're applying for, if you present yourself in a certain way, you can position yourself to get that opportunity. And that's really important to know because the main point is in branding yourself, you actually get to control the impressions. So one thing I definitely want to dispel is if you think like, oh, well, I don't know if I have a personal brand. Oh, you have one. Ask people what they think about you. You have one. The question is, are you controlling it? And the worst thing not to control is your personal brand because you leave the impressions of who you are up to whomever. Okay, so why I'm obsessed with you. And I literally am. So if you get to know me personally, you'll find that I'm very much obsessed. So much that I just went crazy with the mic there, or the thing. Well, really because the main reason I'm obsessed is because my specific superpower is helping unpack people. And I love doing it because every person in this room has their own unique type of brilliance. And the problem with society is that it oftentimes makes us think that we have to be like someone else. But the truth is, all those parameters I showcased in the last slide was just a snippet of all the things that make you unique. It's kind of like a diamond. you can kind of stare at a diamond for a very long time and see something different, right? If you hold up one and you kind of look, well, I don't have one that big. I have a paperweight that big. But if you even look at one on your ring or finger, you can look at it and the light hits it differently and you can see something different. Well, that's how people are. But what's interesting is it's hard to bring all that to the surface. So part of my job as a mindset coach and part of my expertise is being able to shift the way people think about themselves and clear out blockages, mental blockages like low self-esteem, doubting yourself, being like, oh, I don't look like her or I don't act like him, so I'm not good enough. And you would be surprised how much of that impedes the way in which we present ourselves. There's so many things that we struggle with that we don't oftentimes even know that get in the way of us really showcasing our brand assets to people and showing them what we have that's of value. And the interesting thing about it is value is traded for value. So if you want to develop yourself, the main thing is you want to develop yourself in such a way where you showcase your value so that you can receive maximum value in return. And that looks different for everybody. So whether that's money, promotion, opportunities, visibility, your personal brand is definitely that tool to make that happen. Okay, so back to the definition of personal branding, but from a different perspective, okay? So we're gonna deal with it from, okay, am I good on time?
You have 10 minutes until the Q&A.
Okay, great, okay. So I love Jeff Bezos' whole ideology with what your personal brand is. It's what people think about you when you leave the room. And what's interesting about that is if you're not physically present, what did you leave behind? You ever thought about that? So if you're gonna think about it from that angle, I want you to think about how do people perceive you? And what's interesting is that most of us don't realize consciously, we're not all that present. Consciously, we only I think 5% of our thoughts are processed through our conscious part of our brain. 95% is done subconsciously. And I'm getting to a point with that because the point is that you as a professional want to be able to utilize a lot of that subconscious part of people's brain and actually imprint on people who you are, what you're all about, so that they can actually get a strong sense of who you are and what you present as far as value. We'll skip through that. I think one interesting statistic was that when it comes down to the way the brain processes, I think the conscious part will process 40 bits of information versus the 20 million bits per second of information that your subconscious processes. So we think things that we don't even realize we're thinking. And as a professional, you can leverage that strategically. Are you capitalizing on this is the question. So I'm going to use a real world example to illustrate the power of impressions. Anybody know what this is? Anybody know who the artist is? I always joke around, like I'll give $100 to the person, but then someone's going to guess it and I'll be without $100.
Monet.
It's Monet, exactly. It's Claude Oscar Monet, famed French what? What type of painter was he?
Impressionist.
Ah, there's that word again. What does impressionist mean? Impressionist painting style. What type of style is that? So it has to be in this painting of his daughter, of his wife and his son, there had to be probably 1,000 small strokes, brush strokes, to create this entire painting. So think about what it takes, small parts, to create something whole. And if you try to link that back to branding, you're onto an idea. So it takes a lot of what you're doing to create a picture of who you are. The question is, are you capitalizing on that? And do you know how to paint your own picture? So the power of positive impressions really is, again, it gives a sense of the whole. It makes it easier for people to see your value when you know how to paint a picture of yourself. And then it can also create this phenomenon we call the halo effect. So if people have a good sense of who you are, then more than likely they assume you're great in every other area. So say, for instance, you come off very competent. I have a thing with this thing. If you come off very competent, or if you're very outspoken, or you speak very well, or you're very, you get along well with people, then automatically people are going to think, I want to do work with that person because they're probably going to be on time. They're probably going to be very devoted to the work. So the halo effect really works in your favor. So just starting the picture and being consistent with the picture will really help people see what you're all about. So how does one maximize their positive brand impressions? So we define what personal branding is. It's your image, it's your reputation, it's how people experience you, it's your impressions, it's what you imprint on them and in their minds. And the importance of doing that is leveraging it to get what you want professionally, which is a very great strategy. And going back to that whole idea of the subconscious mind, we'll get into why that's such an important part of personal branding. Because people, if you think from an imprint standpoint, a lot of what you process about anything isn't done consciously yourself. You get this sense. You ever been in a room with someone, you met them for like 2 seconds, you just had this sense like, oh, I don't really want to hang around this person.
Yeah.
You just pinpointed somebody. Well, the biggest thing about that, a lot of that wasn't consciously processed. You picked up all of this stuff, all this information, and didn't even realize you did. Again, that works in your favor if you are positively branding yourself. Okay, so step number 1, how to maximize. Well, get clear on you, because no one's going to understand your picture if it's incomplete. It's like this Monet here. It's like, what is that? What am I looking at? So how do you get clear on yourself? And this is the part I love the most. This is what I get to do because I'm highly analytical, and I by nature see most what people miss about themselves. What you think is very simple and not important, I can take it, link it back to something else, take it to something in your childhood, link it to something else, and by the time you finish, we've monetized something and created an opportunity for you. Because we don't realize, again, the level of brilliance that we have. So, for starters, identity is big. My TEDx talk was about, of course, my brain, of course, goes blank, but you are who you are, not what you do. And oftentimes we get our identity by what we do, and then we sacrifice really knowing who we are. So why not do a little bit of that work? What makes you you? What makes you different from people? Because that's actually the biggest point about branding. It's about establishing and distinguishing yourself from other people and making you the number one choice. And that's why when people think it's about competition, if you brand, that's never about competition. There's only one Leandria who's had her experiences, who's had her insights, who thinks the way she thinks, who's has connections the way she. So when you start thinking on all these different levels, you start to see how unique you are. So what is that? What is your brand identity? What do you want to show up as? Who do you want to show up as? What do you want to be known for? Even in this great organization, you all are small parts of a bigger picture. And you all understand that, or you should understand, and what I'm hoping you understand is that the way in which, of course, you present yourself is a reflection of this entire organization. But it's not even just that. It's about the way in which you reflect yourself just for yourself. And then how can you leverage your value to create demands and connections? So if you're thinking on those terms, you'll get a little bit more clear. I like to call this your secret sauce. And these are just some of the elements to think about that separates you and makes you different from other people. Your values, your story. We all know this. Story itself has the capacity to shift people and connect people like nothing else. You ever meet someone and then you hear something about their story and then all of a sudden there's this heart connection. Something happens. Connections are stories are huge. Your interests, your strengths, everything is different for every single one of us. So we're like this really good stew of stuff. And the more you put everything in there and you let it simmer, it creates like the best smell that's uniquely you. Okay, step number 2, how to maximize your brand impressions. You want to communicate consistently. So for instance, we know that's the Monet picture, but that's actually the Monet picture washed out. So when you're not consistent in the way in which you present yourself, you wash out a sense of what your brand represents. People can't really see it. They're like, I think she's this or he's that, but it's not very clear to them. So how do you create a stronger sense of communicating who you are? Well, I always love this. And if you were here for the Savannah Jaycees meeting when I presented, I think I passed this out. This is one of 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 8 different tools that will actually help you communicate your brand to people, who you are and what you represent. And you can do it from different angles. And if you think about it, you're like 8X in yourself. So you can say, okay, I want to be this person as a personal branding specialist. How do I go out in the world and showcase that? Well, how do I use my zone of genius to showcase that? How do I use my appearance to showcase that? What's my digital footprint? What am I saying that's so unique to me and to the purpose that I want to establish and the value I have to give to my tribe? Verbal communication, of course, ties with that. With your digital footprint, your confidence is a sign of your brand. We all exude it different. You ever seen someone that had quiet confidence? Not the loudest person in the room, but they could move you. They could really provoke you to do things. That's a very, very good attribute. Your emotional intelligence. God, I feel like I could talk about emotional intelligence all day. Because did you know that most companies actually don't even care if you are skilled at what you do? Because they can teach you skills. People can't teach you emotional intelligence. I mean, you can learn it, but it's really, by the time you get 40 and 50, God, if it ain't settled in, you're kind of a hot mess, you know what I mean? Because that's your ability to be able to connect not only with yourself and your own thoughts, but interact effectively with other people. Power colors, we talked about that in previous times. You know me, I'm obsessed with color, but color denotes meanings. For instance, the UPS truck is brown. It's not by accident. Brown is one of those colors that is related to dependability. So you know good and well when they say they're coming by 8 o'clock, you're like looking at your watch, you're like, they're gonna be here because you've got those color cues. And I could go on and on, but you definitely wanna use these again to 8x your personal brand, whatever that is for you. And last but not least, watch your blind spots. You know, no need to to develop a picture of yourself if you're gonna turn around and vandalize it yourself. It's the worst case of self-sabotage. And how does this show up? Pretty easy. One easy way to really sabotage yourself is social media postings. And I know we want to make a stand on where we stand politically, and God bless us all on that. But again, you always want to run everything you do, especially on social media, through criteria. Does this promote my brand, or does this distract from my message? If you're really into politics or posting fun pictures or even posting sometimes somewhat interesting pictures, consider putting it in a private place or send it as a DM or something. But don't, just keep in mind that everything that you post is a reflection of you and is telling a story about you. And if it's fighting against your brand, then it's going to be problematic. So that's anything that's salacious, slander, all the good S's, slanderous, scandalous, politically charged, and even think about the pictures that people are tagging you in. Because again, when people look for you for whether it's employment or other means, they do online searches. And I don't know if you've Googled your name lately, but good God, you're like, oh, just want to stay ahead of that. So in closing, my question for you is, what picture are you painting? We're all a blank canvas. And again, I really want to reiterate, you control this. God bless you. You control what people see about you. So no more having the excuse of saying, oh, I got the worst lot in life and no one's ever going to hire me and I'm the worst. And no, you control that. So if you're stuck there, then we definitely need to do some mindset work to shift you. Have you get familiar with who you are, what you represent, what you want to do, how do you want to leverage the best parts of yourself, and then how do you build an image that will actually do just that? So my question is, what's the state of your current personal brand? And then are you making the impressions that's really validating that for yourself? And last but not least is, my gift to you is, if you like the way this presentation went or if you had any questions, I always love to just kind of gift a brand brilliance mindset consultation. Feel free. It's funny, I did this at a group of women I spoke to. They're all like 50 and older. Like no one pulled out their phone. I was like, oh, dang it. I think only young people pull out their phones. But anyway, you're welcome to just join in. And you can follow me at victoriabaylor.com. And that's my presentation. And I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was taking notes and I'm in PR, so I hope y'all were too. Any questions? We have a few minutes. Tyler, go for it.
Yes, sir.
How and where do you draw the line between being authentic and conveying something that is an elevated truth, or with Instagram influencers and Ty Lopez and stuff? Where is it like being like an authentic person and doing interesting things and having interesting things to say and just pretending you are, pretending you have Lamborghinis in your garage and just creating this picture that may or may not actually be representative of who you are?
Tyler, you're my favorite person for that question. I meant to say something about thank you because authenticity is my favorite word. If you brand yourself correctly, it's really about, of course, that internal deep dive. So you're extrapolating all the stuff that's you. That's why showing up will make it easy, actually, because you're only tapping into you. It goes back to intentions, and I can't judge people for that because if usually the people that veer or venture down that road are people that are trying to they're trying to gain meaning or something by like associating themselves with something. So there's a little bit of disparity there. A person that's really whole in the understanding of who they are and are really personally branded authentically, no, they don't have to go that route. And the funniest thing is people can, well, I guess maybe it's just me, but you can see actually through that because you can't sustain something like that. And believe it or not, I work with a lot of people that are they're either high profile or very successful, and they just kind of rose up the ranks by doing what they did, but didn't get a sense of who they were. And then you're just going to crash and burn eventually. So unfortunately, it's just kind of building like a hollow mound, and it's just going to come down. So did I answer your question? I didn't wax too philosophical, did I? Okay. Did I answer your question? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you can't. The thing is this. You're right. I'll get to you. Part B to your question. You're right. Everything's a choice, and you do want to sway people, but again, it comes down to intention. So you do have people that have intention of they want to look like there's something that because again that internal deficit they're not there, and they want to kind of overcompensate, but. That's where your brand story comes in other elements where people can really see you show up authentically. And again, if you have that perception, you can tell the fakers. I can. So if that helps. Yes, ma'am.
Why would I want to come to you for consultation? Like, would it be someone that's in like government that needs to like adjust their image to the public, or someone like that, or just like I don't know, someone that works at a bank?
No, that's actually a good question, and thank you, because I could have clarified that even better. For two reasons. To perform better and to ensure that you're tapping into your brand potential. Oftentimes, people can kind of sense and feel like, okay, I don't feel like I hate the work that I do. I get people that come to me for all kinds of reasons. I get people that come because they hate the work they do and they know they're not being fulfilled. They know something's off, and they want to get a better sense of who they are. So then I actually help them explore that part. We look at, their gifts, their abilities, their background, what they like, all that, and gain a greater sense of who they are. And I'm really good at helping people tap into their purpose. It's kind of a weird thing, which is really good. And then other people come because they want to scale up and be better. So it's like, what am I not monetizing? I feel like I'm leaving money on the table. I have these talents that I'm being picked up in my job, and I feel like I'm being overlooked. What is it about me, that I can actually extrapolate more great things, and then see how I can leverage that for better opportunities. So it's kind of like both sides. And then some people are just like lost, and like me, I was a few years ago. Confidence gone, left their job, and they need a boost, and they need to rediscover who they are. So
We have time for one more question.
yes, ma'am.
I'm going to try to ask this as condensed as possible. Do you have a standard process? So if I'm going to brand myself to somebody based on my business,
Mhm.
do you have a process that you run through? I was talking yesterday with someone I'm close to, and she's in sales, and that looks very different than me and my personality. So hers is, I sell myself as I believe in this brand, I'm going to talk about this brand, whereas I connect with the person, asking them questions about their life and getting to know them on a personal level, so they trust me a little bit differently, and the process looks a little different. And so I'm wondering, is there a standard process?
Well, for me, yeah, because I come from a different angle. My first line of action is to unpack you as a person.
Right.
I always say you can't build, it's like going on a construction site with lumber out. You can't figure out what you can build until you see what your tools are.
Right.
So that's just kind of common sense for me. So it's unpack you, and then from that standpoint, then we look at things like what are your interests, your goals, who do you interact with, and then pretty much meld everything toward that. And usually at that time, people can really tell, it's like, okay, I'm in the wrong line of work. That's not even my specific abilities. And the interesting thing is that we all have the capacity, we're all brilliant, and we all have a level of genius. But again, back to, who was it? Einstein said that if a fish judging its ability by climbing a tree will think it's just the most, and I just paraphrase that seriously, but it'll think it's not the most intelligent person because it's in the wrong environment.
Right.
My job is to get people in the right environment. Yeah, does that make sense?